In the small town of Roseburg, Oregon, Peter Russell lived an unremarkable life as a mechanic at his own auto repair shop on Southeast Stevens Street. Born in 1975 to a middle-class family, Russell maintained a carefully crafted image of a hard-working local businessman. Between 2009 and 2019, he would transform into one of America's most brutal serial killers, responsible for the deaths of dozens of young adults across the Pacific Northwest. His father, Thomas Russell, had been a respected high school teacher, and his mother, Margaret Russell, worked as a librarian at the Douglas County Library. This ordinary background made his eventual revelation as a serial killer even more shocking to the community. The first documented victim was Claire Lewis, an 18-year-old Portland State University freshman studying environmental science. On March 12, 2009, Lewis left her dormitory to meet friends at a local coffee shop but never arrived. Security cameras captured her last known movements at 7:42 p.m., walking past Pioneer Courthouse Square. 2 months later, on May 15th, her body was discovered by hikers in the Mount Hood National Forest, approximately 50 miles east of Portland. The autopsy revealed extensive torture, including systematic burns, broken bones, and deep lacerations. The medical examiner, Dr. James Cooper, noted that Lewis had survived for approximately 72 hours after her abduction. DNA evidence was collected, but no matches were found in any criminal database, indicating the perpetrator had no prior criminal record. The pattern of disappearances continued. Sean Henderson, a 24-year-old freelance photographer from Seattle, vanished on June 3, 2009. Henderson had been documenting landscapes along Interstate 5 for a photography project focusing on Pacific Northwest highway culture. His abandoned equipment, a Canon EOS 5D camera, tripod, and backpack, was found near mile marker 136, just south of Salem. Despite an extensive search operation involving Oregon State Police and local K-9 units, Henderson's body was never recovered. His camera's memory card, recovered from the scene, contained photos taken up until 3:15 p.m. on the day of his disappearance, providing investigators with a precise timeline. By December 2009, 2 more victims had been added to the growing list. Jason Petrie, a 19-year-old college student from Eugene, disappeared after leaving a late-night study session at the University of Oregon Library on September 28. His remains were discovered in November near the Umpqua National Forest, bearing similar torture marks to those found on Sarah Lewis. Emily Watson, a 21-year-old barista from Vancouver, Washington, became the 4th known victim when she disappeared on December 12 while traveling to visit family in Medford. Watson's silver Toyota Corolla was found abandoned at a rest stop along Interstate 5, with her purse and cell phone still inside. Local law enforcement agencies struggled to connect these cases due to Russell's methodical approach to avoiding detection. He utilized stolen license plates, rotating between at least 6 different vehicles, all common models like Toyota Camrys and Honda Civics that wouldn't draw attention. Records later revealed that he purchased these vehicles through private sales using fake identification documents. Russell carefully selected jurisdictional boundaries for his crimes, ensuring that different police departments handled each case separately. He avoided using credit cards or phones that could be traced, paying for everything in cash and maintaining burner phones that he replaced weekly. The FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit, called in to consult in early 2010, noted that the perpetrator demonstrated unusual patience and organizational skills. Special Agent Marcus Thompson observed that the killer's ability to maintain a normal public persona while committing these crimes indicated a level of psychological compartmentalization, rarely seen in serial murder cases. "This isn't someone acting on impulse," Thompson wrote in his initial assessment. "Each abduction shows careful planning, with specific locations chosen for both the initial contact and disposal of victims. The perpetrator demonstrates sophisticated knowledge of law enforcement procedures and forensic techniques." Russell's auto repair business, Russell's Reliable Repairs, provided him with both a cover for his activities and access to potential victims. He specifically targeted young adults who appeared to be traveling alone, offering assistance with vehicle troubles or rides during bad weather. His legitimate business reputation in Roseburg helped deflect any potential suspicion, as he maintained regular hours and participated in local community events, even while continuing his pattern of abductions and murders. The shop's location, just off Interstate 5, gave him easy access to transient victims and quick escape routes. Russell's employees, including longtime mechanic Dave Martinez and receptionist Karen Hughes, would later testify that they never suspected anything unusual about their employer's behavior during this period. Police investigations into each disappearance remained frustratingly incomplete, with investigators lacking the crucial evidence needed to link the cases. The geographic spread of the crimes, combined with Russell's careful avoidance of patterns, prevented law enforcement from recognizing the emergence of a serial killer operating in their jurisdiction. It would take another decade and dozens more victims before the true scope of Peter Russell's crimes would come to light. Leah Parker was born on April 15, 1991, in the rough East Oakland neighborhood of California. Growing up near International Boulevard, an area notorious for its high crime rates and social challenges, she learned resilience from an early age. Her mother, Maria Parker, née Rodriguez, worked grueling night shifts as a registered nurse at Highland Hospital, while her father, James Parker, spent long weeks on the road as a long-haul truck driver for Pacific Coast Freight. Despite their modest means, both parents emphasized the importance of education as a pathway to a better life. The Parker family lived in a small two-bedroom apartment on 88th Avenue, where Leah shared a room with her younger sister, Rebecca. Their neighborhood, plagued by gang activity and drug-related violence, recorded 47 homicides in 2003 alone. However, rather than becoming a victim of her environment, Leah channeled these challenges into developing a strong sense of social justice. Her high school years at Oakland Technical High School marked the beginning of her activism, where she maintained a 4.0 GPA while becoming increasingly involved in community organizing. At age 16, Leah founded the Youth Voice Initiative, a student-led organization focusing on educational equity and violence prevention in Oakland schools. Her blog, Streets to Success, gained attention for its raw portrayal of inner-city life and advocacy for systematic change. Between 2007 and 2009, she published over 200 articles addressing issues ranging from police brutality to educational disparities in low-income communities. Her piece, Chalk Lines and Police Lines, Growing Up Black in Oakland, won the Bay Area Youth Journalism Award in 2008 and was republished in several local newspapers, including the Oakland Tribune. During her senior year of high school, Leah's investigative report on discriminatory disciplinary practices in Oakland public schools caught the attention of civil rights attorneys. The resulting investigation led to policy changes across the district, earning her the California Youth Activist Achievement Award and a full scholarship to the University of California, Berkeley's School of Journalism. At Berkeley, Leah double-majored in journalism and legal studies, maintaining her commitment to social justice while expanding her technical skills. Professor Sarah Matthews, her journalism mentor, described her as a natural storyteller with an unwavering commitment to truth. Leah's academic excellence was matched by her continued community involvement. She interned at the East Bay Express, where she contributed to a series on gentrification's impact on Oakland's minority communities. The series won a Society of Professional Journalists Regional Award in 2009. Her undergraduate thesis project, Voices from the Margins, documented the stories of first-generation college students from disadvantaged backgrounds. The project combined written profiles with video interviews, demonstrating her growing interest in multimedia journalism. This work earned her the Berkeley Journalism Department's Outstanding Achievement Award and reinforced her desire to pursue documentary filmmaking. By early 2009, Leah had developed an ambitious plan for her first major documentary project, American Youth, The Forgotten Stories. Her vision was to travel across all 50 states, documenting the lives of young Americans in rural and small-town communities. The project aimed to highlight the challenges, dreams, and resilience of youth outside major urban centers. She secured partial funding through a Kickstarter campaign that raised $12,000 and obtained equipment sponsorship from Canon America. Leah's preparation for the documentary journey was methodical. She spent months researching routes, contacting potential interview subjects, and developing a comprehensive shooting schedule. Her initial itinerary focused on the Pacific Northwest, chosen for its diverse mix of urban and rural communities. She planned to start in Portland, Oregon, working her way through small towns along Interstate 5 before heading east to Idaho and Montana. In the weeks leading up to her departure, Leah conducted extensive research on each community she planned to visit. Her laptop contained detailed notes on local issues, potential contacts, and specific stories she hoped to capture. She also maintained regular contact with her documentary mentor, veteran filmmaker David Briggs, who helped refine her interview techniques and visual storytelling approach. The tragic irony of Leah's story lies in how her commitment to telling others' stories would ultimately lead her into the path of Peter Russell. Her determination to document overlooked narratives, combined with her trust in people's fundamental goodness, would prove to be a fatal combination. The very qualities that made her an exceptional journalist, her curiosity, empathy, and willingness to engage with strangers, would make her vulnerable to one of America's most calculating predators. On July 17, 2009, at 6:15 a.m., Leah Parker began what would become her final day of freedom. She packed her documentary equipment into a black North Face backpack, a Canon 5D Mark II camera, 2 lenses, a Zoom H4n audio recorder, and a laptop containing her research materials. At the Berkeley AT&T store, she purchased a prepaid Nokia phone for $45, activating it with a temporary number for her journey. Her Greyhound ticket to Portland, purchased online the previous evening, was scheduled for 8:30 a.m. from the San Francisco terminal. Security footage from the Greyhound station showed Parker arriving at 8:07 a.m., wearing blue jeans, a Berkeley Journalism Department sweatshirt, and carrying her backpack. She made 2 calls before boarding. One to her mother at 8:15 a.m., and another to David Briggs, her documentary mentor, at 8:22 a.m. The bus departed on schedule with 37 passengers, including Parker, who sat in seat 15D, according to the driver's manifest. Peter Russell had established a routine for hunting potential victims along Interstate 5. That morning, he left his Roseburg home at 4:30 a.m., driving a recently purchased 2007 silver Toyota Camry with stolen Washington state plates. Bank records would later show he had withdrawn $500 from an ATM in Medford at 6:45 a.m., presumably for gas and other expenses during his hunting expedition. Russell's methodology involved patrolling specific sections of Interstate 5, particularly focusing on rest stops and bus stations between Medford and Portland. The Greyhound carrying Parker arrived at the Medford station at 3:45 p.m. for a scheduled 30-minute break. Security cameras captured her entering the station's convenience store, purchasing a bottle of water and granola bar at 3:52 p.m. At 4:13 p.m., instead of reboarding the bus, Parker approached the ticket counter. The agent, Mary Thompson, later testified that Parker asked about local transportation options, expressing interest in documenting small-town life around Medford. Russell, who had been monitoring the station from his parked Camry, observed Parker for approximately 20 minutes. She matched his preferred victim profile: young, traveling alone, and carrying expensive equipment that suggested middle-class background. He noted her interaction with other passengers was minimal, and she appeared focused on taking photographs of the station and surrounding area. At 4:25 p.m., Parker exited the station and walked toward a nearby coffee shop. Russell executed his practiced approach. He pulled his Camry alongside her, dressed in what he knew was a disarming costume: Levi's jeans, a red and black flannel shirt from Carhartt, and a worn leather jacket from Schott NYC. His appearance was deliberately chosen to evoke trust, mimicking the working-class aesthetic of the region's truck drivers and laborers. "Heading to Portland?" he asked through the passenger window, displaying what many would later describe as his characteristic friendly mechanic smile. Parker nodded, likely seeing an opportunity for both transportation and a potential interview subject for her documentary. Russell had perfected this initial interaction through previous abductions, knowing exactly how to present himself as harmless and helpful. The dashboard camera from a passing police cruiser caught their brief interaction at 4:27 p.m. Parker can be seen placing her backpack in the Camry's trunk before entering the passenger side. This would be the last confirmed sighting of Leah Parker as a free person. Her cell phone's final ping was recorded at 4:45 p.m. near Eagle Point, Oregon, approximately 12 miles northeast of Medford. The following morning, when Parker failed to check in with her mother, Maria Parker placed the first of many calls to her daughter's new phone number. The calls went straight to voicemail. The Greyhound Company confirmed that Parker had not completed her journey to Portland, having voluntarily disembarked in Medford. Her family's initial missing person report was filed with the Medford Police Department at 9:30 a.m. on July 18, 2009. Russell's movements after picking up Parker were calculated to avoid detection. He disabled her phone and removed its battery while making casual conversation about his fictitious work as a freelance photographer. Credit card records from a Shell station in Roseburg show he purchased gas at 6:17 p.m., but security footage reveals Parker was no longer visible in the vehicle. By 7 p.m., Russell had transported Parker to his property on the outskirts of Roseburg, where his carefully constructed underground prison awaited its newest resident. The investigation into Parker's disappearance would initially follow the same frustrated pattern as Russell's previous victims. Her case file, labeled MPD-2009-1457, would grow thick with dead-end leads and unconfirmed sightings. No one connected her disappearance to the string of missing persons along Interstate 5, and Russell's careful planning ensured that no evidence linked him to her abduction. Peter Russell's underground facility, discovered during the FBI raid in 2019, revealed the full extent of his methodical sadism. Located 15 feet beneath his Roseburg property at 1872 Pine Grove Road, the 2,000-square-foot bunker was constructed in 2007 under the guise of building a storm shelter. FBI forensics later determined that Russell, using his mechanical expertise, had designed and built most of the structure himself. The facility consisted of 6 primary areas, 3 containment cells, an interrogation room, a surveillance center, and a disposal chamber. The walls were lined with 1/2-inch steel plates, covered with professional-grade acoustic foam, creating nearly perfect soundproofing. Security footage recovered from Russell's surveillance system showed that he had installed 16 cameras throughout the facility, providing continuous monitoring of all areas through a sophisticated CCTV setup. Each containment cell measured 8 by 10 feet, with 8-foot ceilings. The cells featured military-grade restraint systems anchored into concrete floors and walls. Temperature control systems allowed Russell to subject victims to extreme hot or cold conditions. LED lighting installed in each cell could be brightened to painful levels or completely darkened for extended periods. A drainage system in each cell facilitated cleaning, while also serving as part of Russell's psychological torture methods, with victims often forced to listen to the sounds of other captives through the plumbing. The interrogation room, clinically labeled processing in Russell's detailed logs, contained a modified surgical table, various medical instruments, and recording equipment. According to FBI forensics, this room saw the most activity, with evidence suggesting it was cleaned and sanitized after each use. Agent Sarah Reeves, lead forensic investigator, noted that the room demonstrated a disturbing combination of medical precision and sadistic intent. Throughout her decade of captivity, Leah Parker was held in Cell B, the middle of the 3 containment units. Her survival strategy emerged early in her captivity. Using her journalistic training, she began mentally documenting everything about her captor and surroundings. She created what she later called her mental map, memorizing Russell's patterns, behaviors, and weaknesses. Russell maintained strict routines. He visited the facility every 48 to 72 hours, arriving between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. Each visit lasted approximately 2 hours, during which he would perform what he called maintenance, providing minimal food and water, conducting physical examinations, and often implementing new forms of psychological torture. Through observation, Parker learned that Russell suffered from obsessive-compulsive tendencies, requiring everything to be performed in specific sequences. Between 2009 and 2019, Parker witnessed the deaths of 42 other captives. Russell forced her to watch each murder, using her survival as a demonstration of his absolute control. The victims' ages ranged from 18 to 26, with an average captivity period of 72 hours. Parker later provided authorities with detailed descriptions of each victim, including conversations she had with them through the drainage system, helping authorities identify previously unknown casualties. FBI psychological profilers noted that Russell's treatment of Parker differed significantly from his other victims. While others were typically killed within days, Parker was kept alive as what Russell termed in his journals his constant witness. He subjected her to systematic psychological manipulation, alternating between periods of extreme cruelty and occasional displays of bizarre kindness, such as bringing her books or allowing her to shower. Parker's survival mechanisms were remarkable. She developed a complex system of mental exercises, including memorizing and categorizing every detail of her captivity. She created elaborate memory palaces, storing information about Russell's schedule, his victims, and potential weaknesses in the facility's security. This information would later prove crucial in building the case against him. The physical evidence recovered from the facility included Russell's detailed journals, containing 2,341 pages of handwritten notes, DNA evidence linking him to 47 different victims, Parker's own documentary evidence, scratched into cell walls using a loose screw, medical implements used in torture, many with Russell's fingerprints, personal effects from 42 confirmed victims. The psychological impact of Parker's captivity was profound. Dr. Elena Martinez, the lead psychiatrist who treated Parker after her rescue, noted that she had developed what she termed adaptive documentation syndrome, an almost compulsive need to record and categorize information as a coping mechanism. This same trait that helped her survive would ultimately contribute to her inability to reintegrate into society after her rescue. The bunker's existence raised serious questions about local law enforcement's effectiveness. Despite Russell's property being searched 3 times between 2010 and 2018 in connection with missing persons cases, the underground facility remained undiscovered. The entrance, concealed beneath a workshop floor and requiring a specific sequence of mechanical operations to access, demonstrated Russell's technical sophistication and careful planning. During Operation Silent Witness on October 23, 2019, the FBI tactical team stormed Russell's underground facility at 3:17 a.m. The raid, involving 47 agents and local law enforcement, was meticulously planned over 3 weeks after a breakthrough in surveillance revealed Russell's patterns. The team used thermal imaging to confirm the presence of living beings in the underground structure before deploying flashbang grenades and breaching charges. Agents found Leah Parker in Cell B, where she had spent the last 10 years. Upon liberation, she weighed only 90 pounds but maintained complete mental clarity. Despite severe trauma, her first words were, "I recorded everything. I didn't forget anything." Medical examination revealed the extent of Parker's physical deterioration: severe malnutrition, vitamin D deficiency, muscle atrophy, and hundreds of scars from various torture methods. Her head had been shaved weekly as part of Russell's control rituals, and she had developed acute sensitivity to light due to prolonged darkness. However, her cognitive functions remained remarkably intact, which doctors attributed to her constant mental exercises and documentation efforts. Peter Russell was apprehended in his house, where he was sleeping peacefully. The arrest team found him in bed with a true crime novel on his nightstand. Ironically, a book about unsolved kidnappings. During his arrest, he displayed what psychiatrists later termed pathological calmness, only asking if his latest victim had died yet. In the bunker, investigators discovered 14 bodies in various states of decomposition, personal belongings of 42 other missing persons, Russell's detailed journals, and thousands of hours of video recordings. The evidence processing took forensics teams over 3 months to complete. During the 47-day trial proceedings, Leah testified for a total of 82 hours. Her testimony was unprecedented in its detail and scope. She recalled from memory names of all victims she knew, exact dates and circumstances of each murder, and minute details of the underground prison's layout. Her photographic recollection extended to conversations between Russell and his victims, the sounds of the facility's mechanical systems, and even weather patterns she had deduced from ambient noise. Her testimony, supported by physical evidence, became the key factor in securing the conviction. The prosecution presented 1,247 pieces of physical evidence, including Russell's journals, video recordings, and DNA evidence linking him to 56 murders. The trial attracted international media attention, with over 200 journalists attending daily. Court psychologists who evaluated Russell diagnosed him with malignant narcissistic personality disorder and sexual sadism disorder, noting his complete lack of empathy and sophisticated ability to maintain a normal public persona. On December 7, 2019, Peter Russell was sentenced to 56 life terms without the possibility of parole. During sentencing, he maintained the same disturbing composure, looking at Leah only once to whisper, "You were the best." The judge's remarks lasted over 2 hours, detailing each count and describing Russell's crimes as beyond the scope of human comprehension in their brutality and calculation. Freedom brought Leah no peace. She couldn't sleep in darkness, suffered from panic attacks, and had a compulsive need to document every minute of her life. She filled notebooks with detailed accounts of her daily activities, including timestamps for every action, according to her psychiatrist, Dr. Martinez. Her mind remained in that cell, continuing to gather evidence for a crime that had already been solved. Her attempts at rehabilitation were complicated by severe PTSD, agoraphobia, and what doctors termed adaptive documentation syndrome, a psychological condition where the very coping mechanism that helped her survive now prevented her from moving forward. On December 14, 2019, exactly 52 days after her liberation, Leah Parker's body was found in her Portland apartment. Dozens of notebooks filled with her handwriting were found nearby, a continuation of the documentation she began in captivity. The notebooks revealed her increasingly fragmented mental state, with entries becoming more detailed and obsessive in the days leading to her death. The official cause of death was listed as sleeping pill overdose. Her suicide note contained just one sentence: "I can no longer be a witness." The psychological autopsy conducted after her death revealed the complexity of her trauma. Dr. Martinez's report concluded that Parker had developed what she termed witness fatigue syndrome, a condition where the psychological burden of carrying testimony becomes overwhelming. The notebooks found in her apartment contained over 100,000 words written in the last week of her life, including minute-by-minute accounts of her thoughts and activities. The case also resulted in the creation of the Parker Protocol, a comprehensive set of guidelines for law enforcement agencies dealing with long-term captivity survivors. The protocol emphasizes the importance of immediate psychological support and protection from media exposure, incorporating lessons learned from the failures in Leah's post-rescue care. In her final interview, given a week before her death, Leah said, "I survived to tell their stories. Now that they've been told, my work is done." The interview tape, never released publicly at her family's request, reveals her struggling to maintain the precise documentation habits that had kept her alive in captivity. The interviewer noted that she checked her watch 142 times during the 2-hour conversation and wrote in a notebook between every question. Maria and James Parker's search for their daughter began immediately after her disappearance. Within 24 hours, they had contacted law enforcement agencies in California and Oregon, hired private investigator Thomas Reeves, and established a dedicated hotline. The Parkers liquidated their retirement savings, spending $157,000 on the private investigation over the first year alone. They appeared on national television programs including 2020 and Dateline NBC, offering a $50,000 reward for information leading to Leah's whereabouts. FBI Special Agent Marcus Thompson led the initial investigation from the Bureau's Portland field office. The first breakthrough came on July 25, 2009, when analysts discovered footage from the Medford Greyhound station showing Parker entering a silver Toyota Camry. However, the vehicle's license plate, visible in the footage, was traced to a different car in Washington state, revealing Russell's use of stolen plates. This dead end exemplified the frustrations investigators would face throughout the case. Collected DNA samples from 167 potential suspects. Meanwhile, unknown to investigators, Parker was conducting her own meticulous investigation from within her captivity. Using a loose screw from her bed frame, she scratched detailed notes into the concrete walls of her cell, carefully concealing them behind the thin mattress. She developed a complex coding system to record dates, times, and patterns in Russell's behavior. Parker's journalistic training proved invaluable in her documentation efforts. She created what she called memory maps, extensive mental catalogs of every detail she observed. When Russell provided newspapers, which he did occasionally to torment her with stories about her own disappearance, she memorized dates, names, and locations that might help establish a timeline of his activities. The investigation took a significant turn in 2015, when FBI analyst Sarah Briggs identified a pattern in disappearances along Interstate 5. But jurisdictional issues between different law enforcement agencies complicated the sharing of information. Briggs' report, linking 27 disappearances to similar circumstances, was filed but not acted upon due to lack of concrete evidence and competing departmental priorities. In 2017, the case received renewed attention when true crime podcast Northwest Unsolved devoted a 6-episode series to Parker's disappearance. The podcast generated 157 new leads, including one from a former employee at Russell's auto repair shop who recalled suspicious late-night activities. However, when investigators followed up, Russell provided alibis that temporarily cleared him of suspicion. The Parker family's persistence was remarkable. James Parker took early retirement to devote himself full-time to the search, traveling over 100,000 miles along I-5 posting flyers and interviewing potential witnesses. Maria Parker established the Leah Parker Foundation for Missing Persons, which helped fund searches for other missing individuals and advocated for better coordination between law enforcement agencies in missing persons cases. By 2018, the official investigation had cost an estimated $4.7 million, making it one of the most expensive missing persons investigations in Oregon history. The FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit had developed multiple profiles of the potential abductor, but none matched Russell's carefully constructed public persona. His ability to maintain a legitimate business while conducting his crimes helped him avoid the typical patterns that might have attracted law enforcement attention. Throughout this period, Parker continued her documentation efforts in Captivity. She developed methods to track time using meal deliveries and temperature changes in her cell. She counted vehicles passing on nearby roads to estimate her location's proximity to highways. When Russell brought new victims, she attempted to memorize every detail about them: names, hometowns, family members mentioned, creating a mental database that would later help identify many of his victims. The investigation's failure to locate Parker during this period led to significant changes in how missing persons cases are handled across jurisdictional boundaries. The Parker Protocols, established in 2020, created new guidelines for information sharing between law enforcement agencies and set standards for coordinating multi-state investigations. These changes came too late to help Leah Parker, but have since aided in solving several other long-term missing persons cases.